Yeah, so Adam, we've been down this road, okay? It's like I'm not going to call for Lane Kiffin to be hired. I think Lincoln Riley making some good decisions right now with his defensive coaching staff, getting these pulls in from the portal at quarterback and defensive tackle. And in terms of USC to the Big Ten, look, I am Mr. College Football purist. If you made me president of college football, if you made me commissioner grand emperor of college football, I would have the Pac-12 and the versus the Big Ten in the Rose Bowl every year. Like that, that's the way nature intended it to be. And it's kind of ironic that we had Michigan versus Washington, a classic Rose Bowl game in the national championship. So, like, I believe there's a certain way college football should be. If you wanted to ask me how I would structure the bowls and the postseason, I wouldn't have a 12-team playoff. I would have a 1985 style bowl system and then a plus one after the bowl games. Like Miami versus Washington would have been the plus one in 1991. Georgia Tech, Colorado would have been the plus one in 1990. So, Adam, it's terrible that the Pac-12 is dead. I hate it. It crushes my soul. Don't like it. But USC was offered a ton of money, and Larry Scott and the CEO group ran this thing into the ground, and they're at fault for what's happened. So I don't like USC in the Big Ten, but it's a move that USC pretty much had to make, and it's not USC's fault that the Pac-12 died either. It's Larry Scott and the CEO group primarily. So now we move to the Big Ten, and like it's not the ideal outcome that college football traditionalists wanted. And I do think that in 10, 15 years, after the conferences have collected these pots of TV money, I do think the Pac-12 will be reconstructed. I think that at some point in the 2030s, 10 to 15 years from now, I do think the Pac-12 will be reborn, but the conferences are going to collect their television money first over this next decade. So we just have to wait for that. So I don't like that the Pac-12's dead, but we now have to deal with reality in the Big Ten, and let's just hope USC can make a go of it.
And the reality is well, I mean, like anything in life, and this is a business, but even the universities are businesses. You have to either evolve, you have to adapt, or you die. And this is big business. The writing was on the wall for USC. I think the question was asked. I don't know. It was Bone or who was asked the question. They said, "Hey, so what are we talking about here?" When they're talking about the Pac-12 and media rights, and then he basically said anything's on the table, meaning independence, us going to a different conference, anything's on the table. And the fact is the model that we had for the Pac-12, because now it's all about money, television revenue, big business, markets, etc. This was going this direction. You can't stop the inevitable. And again, when you're sitting there on your life raft in the Pac-12, the sharks are circling and the Carnival cruise ship comes by, you don't wave goodbye to it. You hop on as fast as you can. And that's exactly what USC had to do, Adam. And one more thing, even if, which he's not, Lincoln were to leave, let's say that McVay retires, and the only one job in the world I think he would go to would be that Rams. He's got a young family. He loves the area. I don't think that's going to happen. But even if he were to leave, I would bet my bottom dollar what they did to Lane Kiffin. I'd pray if SC came and asked him that he would just give him the middle finger, because the way he was treated, I can't see him ever coming back to USC.
Yeah, Adam is a tremendous supporter of the show. He's called the last few call-in shows over on the main channel, and he presents some great topics. So what I'm wondering about this scenario is what he expected USC to do.
And I think one point in all of this, Adam, is that if USC was going to have stayed in the Pac-12, what did USC need and also deserve from the Pac-12? Uneven revenue share, right? That USC should have demanded and would have rightfully, been given an extra cut of revenue, like an acknowledgement that, hey, you're the daddy, you're the cash cow, you're the straw that stirs the drink. The other member schools needed to recognize USC's value and give the Trojans an extra revenue share compared to the other schools in the conference. USC deserved that. But the CEO group would not kiss the ring and bend the knee. So like if USC is going to be treated like dirt, and let's be clear, USC was treated like dirt so many times and in so many different ways by the Larry Scott era Pac-12. My famous, infamous example is Texas playing that, or USC playing that overtime game against Texas on a Saturday. And then the next game on the schedule that season, 7, 8 years ago, whenever it was, the next game on the schedule after a primetime game against Texas, a Friday night trip to Pullman. Like, the conference set up USC to fail. Would never happen with Ohio State in the Big Ten. Would never happen to Alabama in the SEC. Would never happen to Oklahoma in the Big 12. But it happened to USC. Total amateur hour. Like no other prime conference actively sabotaged its cash cow, its bell cow program the way the Pac-12 did for USC. In exchange for that kind of clown car idiocy, USC at least deserved an unequal revenue share, not to mention various other things we could throw out there as well. And the Pac-12 would not give USC a breadcrumb. Sayonara. All right. This conference did not treat USC the way USC deserved to be treated. At some point, you run out of excuses, you run out of leeway, you run out of rope, and you have to move on with your life. And so, it's not as though USC is the villain here. That we have to remember that. The Pac-12 and the CEO group are the villains. And of course, we've seen from further reporting, what's happened at Washington and other schools and other chancellors and presidents throughout the Pac-12, and just how disorganized, sloppy, selfish they were, and how they weren't on the same page. Like, get out of there. Get out of there. Like the Pac-12 is responsible for its death. USC is not. Let's move on with our lives.
And really quickly, just one more thing. So just to recap again, people keep making comments about Jaden Maeva. Yes, he has recommitted back to USC, and we are celebrating the 6'2", 237-pound Isaiah Rakes, who is now going to shore up the inside. So now we have our backup quarterback, and we're getting depth in interior defensive line. And if you haven't already, please do quickly hit that subscribe button. We appreciate all of you guys being here as always. Again, this show would be just Matt, Mark, and I sitting around talking to each other if you guys weren't here. So thank you all for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And just as a footnote to what Matt's talking about in terms of how a conference treats its royalty, as soon as Matt ran through that situation, it reminded me of just in 2020 during the COVID year, the Big Ten set down guidelines of how many games needed to be played to reach the conference championship game, and Ohio State did not reach that game amount. And then just a few weeks later, the Big Ten said, you know what we said, forget it, Ohio State's still going to go to the Big Ten championship game.
That's right. You roll out the red carpet for your bell cow program, and the other schools might not like it, but that's the way it is, right? Like that's, some schools pay more of the bills than others. Like that's just doing business.
Hey, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe for daily USC football content. Fight on.